Hello there, gamers, and welcome to another late edition of Random News of Gaming, the monthly gaming news show that doesn't waste your time, but gives you all the important news stories in the most fashionably late fashion possible. I hope you all enjoyed the quality content I put out recently, but if you missed it, don't forget to check out my rundown of all the games from 2024 I played, and the latest Smash Supercut if you're into that sort of thing. It was January, so the news wasn't exactly popping off, but we do have a few interesting things that these companies showed off, so we'll get into that later. First, let's dive into some garbage. Starting with the one company who had nothing to show off. Actually, you could consider them showing off a negative amount of games last month because PlayStation canceled even more of their alleged live service games they had planned, including a live service God of War and a Horizon MMO for some reason, because clearly that's what we all want, right? It's almost like they suddenly forgot what their fanbase likes when they decided to start making all these games. But it seems they do kinda understand a large portion of their modern audience, because according to this article I saw last month, they have more live-action movies and shows in the works than actual games. Listen, Sony, I am a gamer. I don't watch TV shows and movies, and even if I did, I would still rather have you put your resources into more and better games. We're 5 goddamn years into the generation, and I still have no reason to buy your system. There are only 2 games I want to play, which is not enough to justify the cost of a console, and one of them is coming to PC anyway. What are you doing? Well, I guess ousting one of your executives was probably the right idea, because Herman Hulst is no longer in charge. Will Hideki Nishino steer PlayStation in the right direction? I doubt it, but we'll see. There was a company that had a sharp drop in value last month, and if you haven't heard about this yet, you may be surprised at which company it is. Or maybe you won't, I don't know, but it's EA. Yeah, even though they are a scummy as hell company, they don't tend to have massive failures like we've seen recently from other companies. But apparently, one of their 2024 games was a much bigger failure than we initially thought, and that's Dragon Age: The Veilguard. Initially, it was believed that the game was pretty successful because it sold millions-ish. I don't think we had an actual number, but if we did, it doesn't matter, because apparently this game lost EA a lot of money, as well as caused their stock to plummet 17%, which is a lot because EA is worth much more than other companies, and a lot of people described this as them losing several Ubisofts worth of money. Yeah, we'll get to Ubisoft again, soon enough. But this is one of EA's biggest losses in quite a long time due to Veilguard's massive flop, which also resulted in layoffs to no surprise, and now BioWare has less than 100 employees working there. So, good luck Mass Effect 5, but apparently EA's sports series are allegedly not doing as well as they used to. Are the normies finally catching on? Finally?
Fucking normies!
Also, that reported 17% number is actually a lot higher if you take the past few months into consideration. In December, their stock price was at $167 a share, and when it bottomed late last month, it was at $117, so that means it's actually 30%. That's massive, like my banana. Next, we have a series of stories that are loosely connected, sort of. First, another company that you probably all expected to have more bad news last month, Ubisoft. If you saw the last RNG, you can probably guess what happened because I called it, though it wasn't really a difficult prediction to make. Yeah, Ubisoft laid off 185 employees and announced they are shutting down their Leamington, UK studio, which appears to be a support studio of some kind. But yeah, not surprising news in the slightest. The next story is somewhat related to Ubisoft, but also various other game companies. Apparently, this was something that's been floating around the internet for months, and it only came up and went viral in January because of a YouTube video by People Make Games, an activist YouTuber who talks about controversial events and practices in the game industry. Because they are activists, I do think the story, or at least details of it, should be taken with a massive grain of salt. There was a studio that was closed down a few months back in Indonesia called Brandoville Studios, and what came out afterwards were stories of unacceptable and downright strange abuse of employees from the company managers Cherry and Ken Lai. This company was a support studio that received outsourced work from other companies, and they have done work on major releases, including The Last of Us Remastered, Age of Empires 4, and the upcoming Assassin's Creed Shadows. They outsource work to these companies because it's cheap, basically. And these companies don't have quite the same rights for workers as we do in the US and Europe, so they can get a lot of tedious labor done for low cost. And it seems that the entirety of the game industry completely ignored this story, as well as pretty much the entirety of gaming journalists. What more proof do you need that these journalists suck? It's their job to protect the companies they advertise for after all, not inform us of the truth. But yeah, just another reason not to buy Ask Creed Shadows, I guess. But another story related to Ubisoft is that of Tencent, the Chinese company that wants to buy out Ubisoft. But oddly, here in the United States, they were designated as a Chinese military company by the Pentagon.
What? Huh?
Sounds weird, but it seems the US government suspects Tencent is aiding the Chinese government and military with their earnings, which Tencent denies, but it's probably true to be honest. Pretty much every Chinese company is beholden to their authoritarian government in some way or another, so I don't believe them. But this caused their stock to drop by 10% as a result of this designation. I'll try to remember to keep this story updated in future RNGs if anything else happens. But another story regarding Chinese companies in the US. You probably remember the TikTok ban that happened a few weeks ago, right? Well, apparently, some games were affected by this ban as well, as Marvel Snap went offline in the US temporarily until they found a new publisher. Their previous one, Newverse, was under the umbrella of ByteDance, which is the parent company of TikTok as well, so anything they were involved with in the US was restricted due to alleged national security concerns. The game is back up now though, so you can get your Marvel China slop if you really need it. Or you could just play Marvel Rivals instead, I guess. But there is another Chinese company affected by US government shenanigans, that being Hoyoverse. They were banned from selling loot boxes to anyone under the age of 16 without parental consent in their games, and made to pay a $20 million fine. That's nothing compared to all the money they've made from their wildly popular games. Isn't it weird that the age is 16 though? That's kind of an arbitrary age in the US, where 18 is considered a legal adult, but whatever. Just government things, I guess. Well, that wraps up that, so let's get into some quick stories and also some showcases where there were a couple of major events, and a couple unfortunate stories too, so let's get into it. Amazon cancels pre-orders for Mighty Number 9 on the 3DS. Took them this long, huh? That's kind of it. There hasn't been any reason posted why it took them this long, but if you still wanted this on the 3DS, too bad, I guess?
Cry like an anime fan on prom night.
Multiverses is shutting down. The Smash Bros. Knockoff that Warner Bros. Completely destroyed by their own greed with microtransactions and terrible grindy live service BS. And as previously reported, lost themselves hundreds of millions of dollars.
Get what you fucking deserve!
On the other hand, No Man's Sky gets another win with yet another free update. So yeah, I keep saying I should get back into this game, but I never actually do it, but hey. At least it keeps proving to be a great game compared to what it was at launch, all the way back in 2016. Fun fact, I actually bought the collector's edition of this game for PS4 back in 2016, and I still have it, so I could technically just pop it in anytime and play it. Oh well. I hope their next game, Light No Fire, will end up being as much of a success story because after all this support, they deserve continued success. Don't screw it up again, Hello Games. I'm watching you. For all my fellow PC mustard racists out there, Nvidia showed off the 50 series GPUs at CES, so yay. They boasted that the 5090 will be twice as powerful as the 4090. Don't believe them. They are going heavy into AI upscaling and frame generation, so even if it appears to be as powerful as they say, it really isn't. It's just using AI generation to appear that way. That was a redundant sentence, moving on. Squeenix wants to sue their customers, or so that may be a possibility in the near future. They adopted a new anti-employee harassment policy that sets some pretty vague guidelines for them to find ways to justify denying service to customers they don't like, or even sue them. Some of the examples they cite for actionable behavior are reasonable to be fair, but I think this is just an attempt to silence criticism. It seems like a lot of harsh criticism came from Japanese users over Final Fantasy XVI, according to this Automaton article. And over in the West, there's been a huge amount of backlash over the last Final Fantasy XIV expansion. So these may have been the motivations behind this new policy, because some people on the internet tend to take things a little too far. Unfortunately, Squeenix still has tons of fanboys, including in Japan, where a lot of them were actually praising this policy despite being the potential targets. Fanboys will be fanboys. Apparently, in Japan, companies are having a lot more issues with foreign payment processors than previously reported with Visa and MasterCard. Some creators of adult games on Steam are having their funds withheld by the banks, and this seems to be mainly affecting adult content from Japan, regardless of it being completely legal. Now the Japanese government is getting involved and intends to investigate the issue. I love this meme here in this article. It pretty much sums up this whole debacle pretty succinctly. Fuck these companies. They should just do their job facilitating legal payments and nothing else. Oh, and maybe don't get caught in 4K knowingly allowing transactions of child abuse material on OnlyFans.
Exposed.
On a related note, these issues may be spreading to non-adult content, including Nintendo. Nintendo announced that on March 25th, 2025, they will no longer accept foreign payments for anything on the Japanese eShop. We don't entirely know if this is related to the previous story, but it may be. They claim it's to prevent fraud, but if that were the real reason, the other Nintendo branches would follow suit, right? The timing is also suspicious considering all this stuff is happening now, but if they give us an update, I'll let you know. Another somewhat amusing story about Nintendo. They were in a legal battle with a Costa Rican company called Super Mario, and they lost. How? Pretty simple. The Costa Rican Super Mario supermarket has been around for 50 years. Nintendo's Mario isn't quite that old. Nintendo left the company alone for a while, but then tried to oppose them once they renewed their trademark for the supermarket. But you fail. Good. Since we're on the topic of Nintendo, time to go into the biggest news, the Switch 2. Yes, they finally showed it off and... What? Leaks? What leaks? You want me to talk about them? How about no? Listen, I paid zero attention to any of these leaks, and in my opinion, that's what you should do too. The Smash 6 leaks are fake too, by the way. Leakers don't deserve your attention, so don't give them any. There's no point in wasting your time getting hyped for shit that may not even be true. So don't. But anyway, I already did a reaction to this little presentation on stream, so you can check that out if you want. TLDR, it looks alright. Can't really say anything else until I get my hands on it, so I'm not exactly looking forward to it yet, because they showed no games. Yes, I know, they sort of teased a new Mario Kart in the reveal, but that wasn't gameplay. And to be honest, I'm not huge into Mario Kart. I need more first. They will be having a follow-up direct on April 2nd that will show off new games for this system, so if you want to see me react to that, stay tuned to the channel. There was also a concerning thing in the reveal trailer thing. They say the Switch 2 will be backwards compatible, but some games won't be supported. Considering their possible recent backslide into censorship, I worry that they may start moderating game content again, but some people think it has to do with the Switch 1 hardware compatibility issues. Just have to wait and see. Since I guess you could technically call that a showcase, let's go over the rest of them. All 2 of them. Maybe I missed some, I don't know. But the other big event of January was the Xbox Developer Direct on January 23rd. I thought this was a very strong showcase, and I like that you pretty much get what you expect, aside from the big surprise, Ninja Gaiden coming back. Every game shown off there looked great, and yes, even the Sweet Baby Inc. game looked decent. There was also a Playism game show mini, which aired on January 30th, featuring a few niche games. Oh yeah, there was also that real Game Awards show. It was pretty bad, but they did show off some games and had a few surprises to their credit, but nothing we haven't already seen before. Don't bother, the awards don't matter, just like the actual Game Awards. That's everything. No localization hoopla this time around, at least I couldn't find anything significant worth talking about. Now, time for the moment you've all been waiting for. The worst take of the month. And despite this video, January was kind of a slow news month, so of course, the crazy fanboys had extra time to waste on social media spewing the worst takes imaginable rather than playing games. But I want to give a shout out to the video games media, who are advocating for $100 games. Go fuck yourselves, you obvious anti-consumer industry shills. The more of these outlets go out of business, the better. But for our worst take, we actually have a developer, believe it or not. A developer by the name of Team Kill Media. Let's see what they have to say this time.
For those asking us about the PC version of Code Violet, the reason we are not bringing it to PC is we do not want anyone modding vulgar versions of the main character as well as other characters in the game. We hold our voice actresses and actors with high regard, as well as our artistic vision for the game and story, and reject any form of destroying that with sexual mods. Making a joke out of our art and possibly tarnishing the reputation of our voice actresses and actors is not worth the extra money we can make.
Right.
Yeah, I call bullshit. Here's why. If you don't know who Team Kill Media is, they are responsible for the abysmal 2023 game Quantum Error. The game that got infamous for being bad, one, but also for being the game promoted by devs actively console warring on the X-Twatter. Yes, developers, console warring. That's their actual motivation for this post here. They want to suck the cock of PlayStation to appeal to the brain-dead fanboys that glaze the company all day instead of playing games. Don't believe me?
So adding a community note pointing to us saying the game is exclusive to the PS5 does not mean we have a deal with Sony. This is factually incorrect. If we had a deal with Sony, you would know about it because we'd be proclaiming it from the mountaintops with joy.
Oh my.
Yada yada yada, you get the gist. See, they are doing this to play into the ponies' hands and wallets. Despite their last PS5 exclusive being ass, it will still work to at least some degree, because plenty of them are going out and defending this company. And so is GameSpot for some reason. One big theory floating around is that they actually choose PlayStation because they have the worst refund policies, so their slapped together asset flip games are less likely to get refunded by Sony. Probably some truth to that.
Why treat the customer this way? Why? Because fuck them, that's why.
But back to the original post. You claim to have a problem with mods. Mods of your main characters naked or something, or some other degenerate mods because you think it disrespects your characters and by extension their voice actors? I've already said I think this is bullshit, but even if it wasn't, you might be the only developer who thinks this way. Mods require people, fans, taking a large amount of free time out of their day to program and edit their games to be how they want. If they hated you or your game, they would never play it in the first place. Unless they're a content creator, maybe. Mods are a labor of love, and the more of a modding scene you have, that means more people love your game. Even the degenerates. Your arbitrary negative spin on gooner mods can be spun positively as well. They like your game, and your characters, and want to goon to them. The internet does what the internet does. And these mods don't harm your game either. They actually get more people to buy them. Oh yeah. They also complained about piracy.
What is happening right now with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on PC is exactly what we have experienced even though we are a small studio. It happened on the first day of our very first game released years ago, Kings of Lore. So, for the ones who have accused our game Sun and Bone of having low player counts on Steam, go search Sun and Bone torrent on Google, and you will see why. We released Sun and Bone on the Epic Games Store first before Steam and it was instantly pirated. On both games we have released on PC, the result is low player counts and loss of revenue. In addition to not wanting pornographic mods of our games, we can't devote time and resources into something that will be pirated and given away for free.
There's so much wrong here. Okay, first, Sun and Bone came out in October of 2024. Any of you watching this, feel free to go back and check my very long RNG release list for October 2024. Did you notice Sun and Bone on there? I had never even heard of the game until this drama, even though I follow all the showcases, many indie promoting sources, and of course, the salt channels. Clearly nobody gave a shit about your game. Second, you pumped this game out in less than a year after Quantum Error and still have the gall to charge $30 for it. $30 isn't a huge deal, but it's also not an amount people are just willing to drop on a whim. Third, did you notice the part where they mentioned they released it exclusively on the Epic Games Store first? The storefront that's considered the enemy of the vast majority of PC gamers out there? And you wonder why people would rather pirate it than buy it?
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
4. Saying the search query Sun and Bone torrent gives you torrent links for Sun and Bone? I think that's just how search engines work, my guy. Do you know what search engines are? Oh my god, what else? 5. Pornographic mods are a problem, but do you keep that same energy for pornographic fan art? One of them is just one person modding the character on their computer, the other is just someone drawing the character on their computer, both of which give the same result. Are they not both disrespecting the character and the voice actors or whatever? What if the voice actors disagree and like the content themselves? What then? Maybe speak for yourselves and only yourselves. And last, yes, if you release Code Violet on PC, it will get pirated. I guarantee it. It happens to literally every game on PC with no exceptions. The alternative is, you release it on PC, some people will buy it, some will pirate it. Or you choose not to, and nobody on PC will be able to pirate it, yes, but the rest of them also won't buy it at all. All you were doing making your game exclusive to PlayStation is missing out on potential sales, but at this point, since you seem to want to make yourselves the enemy of any gamer that isn't on PlayStation, now people will just choose not to buy it even if you do port it because of your reputation.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
But hey, at least the ponies have one game to look forward to this year.
One game, I don't know why.
Alright, forget Code Violet. We have some better games, allegedly, to go over in the release list. Remember, if you want a list of every game featured on my RNG release list, feel free to check out my Steam Curator, where I include every game covered on the channel. Also, if there is an upcoming game you want me to include, feel free to share it on my Discord or in the comments below. There's quite a lot more last month than I expected, so let's get this over with. Starting with The Legend of Cyber Cowboy on January 1st, one of several action roguelites on this list per usual. This time, play as a cybernetically enhanced Wild West guy and take down robots in bullet hell style. This ain't no cyberpunk, cyber partner. Beyond Citadel on January 2nd, a boomer shooter with anime girls, violence, and fan service. Do I need to say more? Hide Time on January 6th. It's free, so you shouldn't care what it is and just go get it. Just saying. Fine. It's a first-person puzzle game with some spooks. Project Tower on January 6th, a third-person action and shooter game featuring bullet hell combat. If only it was first-person so you could experience the bullet hell coming right at your face. Desktop Mate on January 7th, an anime girl desktop companion app. It's free. It also has a paid Hatsune Miku version. Go check it out. Sea Fantasy on January 7th, an open world RPG with exploration, platformer combat, and fishing. Lots and lots of fishing. Cruel on January 9th, another fast-paced boomer shooter, this time with roguelike elements, like permadeath. Very cruel indeed. Heroes of Hammerwatch II on January 14th, another action roguelite set in a fantasy RPG world and includes town building. Nice. Threefold Recital on January 14th, a 2D platformer featuring mystery, drama, and furries. Enjoy. Age of Darkness Final Stand came out of early access on January 15th, a dark fantasy RTS and tower defense game. Wipe out those hordes until it is done. Momibosu on January 15th, a cute anime-style precision platformer with exploration and Metroidvania-like design. Sounds neat. Age of Water came out of early access on January 16th. This ain't no water world. Use your boats to wage war against others online or in PvE. Blade Chimera on January 16th, a slick-as-hell looking Metroidvania made by the same devs that made the Record of Lodoss War Metroidvania. Might have to play this one myself, lads. Dynasty Warriors Origins on January 16th, the newest entry in the Dynasty Warriors franchise that gave the series quite the revamp. Mowing down armies as one man never looked so good. Nunholy on January 16th, another action roguelite featuring very lovely and badass anime nuns who are fighting hordes of undead and vampires. Tales of Grace's... Florin? Tales of Grace's Florin Remastered? I don't fucking know. On January 16th, a remaster of the classic Tales of JRPG with the best combat in the series, and the most adorable character. Tyrant's Realm on January 16th, a 90s-inspired dark fantasy action roguelite with procedurally generated levels and dungeons, in case you want to die over and over PS1 style. Hellskate on January 20th, a skateboarding game with action roguelite combat. Seems to need some work, but what a killer concept, dude. Aiden Frontline Survival on January 20th, a tower defense RTS where you focus on pillaging the land for resources while defending yourself with mobile turrets. Into the Emberlands on January 20th, a casual exploration game where you collect resources, save the villagers, and rebuild their town. It'll be easy. Mecha Blood Quarry Assault on January 20th, a first-person mech pilot game, this time with very old-school graphics, a boomer shooter with extra steps. Mystery on January 20th, a multiplayer survival action horror game featuring social deduction elements. Someone here is spooky and sus, and it may be you. Super Roboy on January 20th, another Metroidvania set in the post-apocalypse, but you are a Super Roboy, so don't let it get you down. The Dark Side of Seklon on January 20th, a sci-fi open-world third-person shooter and exploration game. Just don't get lost on the dark side. Disorder on January 21st, an action roguelike featuring a super fighting robot waifu. Seems to need some work, but they've got the assets down at least. Lonely Mountain Snow Riders on January 21st, a skiing racing game with that ultra-generic character art style. But hey, the reviews are good, so it must be fun at least. Somber Echoes on January 21st, a dark cinematic Metroidvania featuring some pretty awesome looking set pieces, not gonna lie. Ender Magnolia Bloom in the Mist on January 22nd, a follow-up to Ender Lilies, one of the best Metroidvanias I've ever played, so I will have to play this one too. I must. Legend of Heroes Kai no Kiseki Farewell Ozumiria on January 22nd. The latest in the Trail/Giseki JRPG series finally got its PC port. This releases Japan only, but there is a translation patch already out there, but it still needs a lot of work from what I've read. Expect to see it on the channel soon, Falcom Bros. Mika and the Witch's Mountain on January 22nd, a casual 3D exploration game where you play a little witch delivering stuff to people. Isn't that cute? Dreamcore on January 23rd, a surreal psychological liminal space exploration game. Just looking at it makes me feel I'm trapped in a weird dream. Two major PC ports came out last month on January 23rd, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Ninja Gaiden 2 Black in case you missed the Xbox Developer Direct. Rocket Boots Mania on January 23rd, a parkour racing game where you have rocket boots. Sounds like something straight out of the early 2000s. Even has a level editor. Sword of the Necromancer Resurrection on January 23rd, a full remake of the original indie cult classic Sword of the Necromancer. Sin Duality Echo of Ada on January 23rd, a PvPvE extraction shooter with some very nice looking characters. Unfortunately, it does have invasive DRM and mostly negative reviews. Maybe it will improve in the future, but Bamco doesn't have a track record for that. Mark of the Deep on January 24th. Yeah, another action roguelite. This time pirate themed. Had enough of these yet? Agent Fall on January 28th, a co-op 2D shoot-'em-up platformer where you take down the ultimate cursed alliance, aliens and the government. Conversely, Beat the Humans on January 28th, a turn-based tactics game where you play as the aliens defending against human invaders. Notice who the common enemy is in these two games, just saying.
We know we're under attack! We know it! We're breaking the conditioning! Ah!
Eternal Strands on January 28th, a 3D action-adventure fantasy game featuring some giant bosses, a la Dragon's Dogma. Orcs Must Die Death Trap on January 28th, a chaotic third-person action game with tower defense and roguelite mechanics. Seems mid as of now, but it looks like it has potential. Tales of Iron 2 Whiskers of Winter on January 28th, a 2D action platformer Souls-like with animal characters. Furries do seem to like their brutality. The Stone of Madness on January 28th, a tactical stealth game set in 18th century Spain. Nobody expects the Spanish insanity. Corridon on January 29th, an action RPG where you take control of the creatures you defeat. Be the savage beast you think you are. Cryptical Path on January 29th, another 2.5D action roguelite where you progress by building the map yourself. You are the architect of your own demise after all. Detective 2112 on January 29th, a stylish cyberpunk bullet hell action RPG. Needs a bit more augmenting before it gets into a good state. Kamibako Mythology of Cube on January 29th, a JRPG featuring turn-based combat, crafting, and puzzle solving. A nice combination that appeals to me. Hello Kitty Island Adventure on January 30th. Ever wanted an Animal Crossing clone but with Hello Kitty characters? Here you go. Enjoy the cuteness overload. Unfortunately, it also has Denuvo. Resetna on January 30th, another 2.5D platformer with some fast-paced combat and detailed environments. Ascendant on January 31st, an old-school inspired fantasy dungeon crawling action roguelite with bullet hell bosses. Don't worry, it's the last roguelike on the list. Brave Escape on January 31st, a 2D co-op precision puzzle platformer starring a guy and a robot trying to escape a labyrinth. Citizen Sleeper 2 Starward Vector on January 31st, a dice roll-based sci-fi RPG where you gather a crew and take on contracts for something, I don't know. And last, Foundation came out of early access on January 31st. It's a chill, gridless medieval city builder. Without a grid, you can make your wildest medieval dreams come true. And there you have it, that wraps up this edition of RNG. Hope you enjoyed it. This was probably one of the more difficult ones to put together, and given what we're currently learning about some past events in gaming, next month's going to be even worse. Next month's is going to be even worse. Help me. I've got nothing else planned this month, but feel free to suggest anything, I guess. I'm working on that top 10 covers video, but writing the script has been difficult because it's hard to describe why I like music when I'm not a musician. But based on what I have so far, I think this video will turn out great. Keep tuning in to my near future streams if you want to suggest some covers to me, and don't forget to tune in every Monday night for our weekly Smash event. Also, don't forget to hit the like button and share the video around because it actually helps out since I think I'm shadow banned, but I don't know. Feel free to leave a comment on what you think of any of this news or any of the game releases, and subscribe for more mediocre content. Check out my previous stuff like my top 10 Zelda moments or my top 10 games of 2024. Follow me on the X-Twitter to get zero engagement or catch my content on Rumble or Odyssey. And as always with this sinker of an industry, have high standards, low expectations.